Welcome, all you poor TOPIK victims. And today we'll be talking about how I managed to survive this 4-hour-long hell on earth of an exam. Even got the highest possible level, which is level 6. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Eylül. I'm from Turkey. I speak 6 languages, and on here I talk a lot about languages, so you better follow, subscribe, whatever. Now, if you think your Korean is not there yet, or if you're a little intimidated by this exam, just know that this exam has very little to do with your actual language skills and more to do with your understanding of this exam, as with all language certificate exams, to be honest. Very unfortunate, but it is the truth, so the advice I'll be giving in this video is probably the exact opposite of what I would normally recommend you guys do when learning a language. Also, yes, I have been living in Korea for the past 5 years, but when I first took TOPIK and got level 5, I was 17 and I had never been to Korea, so let me be your motivation. And let me tell you that it is still very much possible to get a high score with the correct exam preparation, so watch it till the end. This is in order. But before we begin, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Skillshare, which actually has some amazing Korean courses, whether you're a complete beginner or someone who's just trying to get to the next level with their Korean. Like this one that I took recently called 100+ Natural Korean Expressions. That includes so many phrases that Koreans actually use in real life, but I have never seen in any textbook. Also, as I always say, the most important part of learning Korean is actually understanding the culture, since it's so deeply intertwined with their language. And on Skillshare, you can find both culture and language classes, which is what makes it so unique. If it's your first time hearing about it, Skillshare is a platform that lets you learn from world-class creatives like pro illustrators, top designers, and entrepreneurs. So you can even experience classes in art, photography, design, and more. And right now they have an amazing offer where the first 500 people to click the link in my description will get 20% off their first year with a 7-day free trial and a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you can go ahead and explore it basically risk-free. As I said, it's only for the first 500 people, so get it while you can. Let's move on. So let's start with reading, because the preparation that I did for this part kind of helped me to improve my overall score for the other parts as well. Now, if I could give you just one tip for this exam, it would be to focus on vocabulary. Because unlike my usual chill language learning methods, there is really nothing chill about this exam. And some of the words they use, I had never seen in my life until I started preparing for this exam. So our biggest strategy here is to identify the vocabulary we're not familiar with, create lists with them, kind of understand them, get familiar with them, and then we're making flashcards with them to memorize the out of them. That's our only option. Because the most important thing in this section is to be able to understand what the text is about. And sometimes they be giving random texts about random vocabulary you might have never seen before. So even if you don't know some words, maybe even the keywords, it's really important to be able to guess what the whole text is about in general based on the parts you were able to understand. So when I was preparing for this exam, I used this textbook. I highlighted every single word that I did not know. Wherever they would be in this book, I grouped them and I made flashcard decks with them. Luckily, I never got rid of them and they're public, so I'll be linking them in the description obviously. But TOPIK is an exam with a lot of different levels, so if it's a bit too advanced for you, I recommend you to make your own flashcards and to just go at your own pace. Also, I strongly believe that the process of making these flashcards really help you become more familiar with them. They help you to kind of learn them too. So I would really recommend you do that. But we all love a shortcut, and I do not gatekeep. So just feel free to use mine, I guess. Keep in mind though, I only recommend this if you're preparing to take an exam, because I literally memorized more than 1,000 words just for this exam when I was 17 in the span of 4 months, and basically forgot more than half of them after the exam because I never used them. I did not need those words. If you actually want to be able to remember that vocabulary, to be able to use it, you have to acquire it, not memorize it. Wouldn't you know, I already also have a video about that, because I think that is really, really important when trying to learn any language. So if you're not in a rush and if you're just learning Korean for fun, I'd recommend you to learn words that way, the way that I talked about in the video. Anyways, back to our topic. The second most important thing in this section is your speed. I'm sorry, but we gotta be faster than the speed of light. You don't have a lot of extra time for this part because the questions in the beginning will be short, but as you proceed, the questions will just keep getting longer and longer, and in the last page, you will wanna cry. Therefore, you wanna have the time to be able to carefully do these questions and also to be able to go back and double check some questions you were just not quite sure about. If you're not quite sure about a question, just mark it. Go back to it. It's not worth wasting that much time on it because most questions in the beginning and in the mid part are not worth that many points. So just keep it going. And if you're watching this video, you're probably not new to Hangul, but in case if you are, make sure you're just as familiar with Hangul as the Latin alphabet. Start reading like your life depends on it. Like read anything and then start timing yourself. This website, which I believe is their official website, has a lot of mock tests from previous years. And I actually don't like to take practice tests until I feel like I'm ready for all sections. But if you're just starting out, I recommend you to take one of the exams just to kind of assess where you are, how good you are with reading. You don't have to print anything, you don't have to download anything, you just do it and it shows you the results right away. And then you can go from there. Before I took the exam, I made sure to take every single mock test that was available on this website at the time. I think it's super important. Now, on the other hand, I feel like time is less of an issue with listening because it's not like you can really go back and think about anything. And I think even towards the end, none of the tracks, none of the recordings get super fast. So at least you don't have that to worry about. But still, listening might be a bit tricky because as you guys know, Korean is the language that must be listened to until the very end of the sentence to fully understand. The verb comes at the very end. So unlike English, you can't really tell where a sentence is going from the beginning. And of course, people who prepare the questions for such exams love to take advantage of this to kind of trick you, to kind of see if your comprehension is actually good. The answer is often decided in the last sentence of the dialogue. Especially in the middle level conversations, they'll have a nice little chat and then bam. And one of them will say something like 그래서 취소하기로 했어요 or 이게 더 나을 것 같아요. And if you miss that one sentence, bye, you're guessing. So how do you practice for this? Again, as opposed to my usual advice, you can't just consume natural content and call it a day. For this, I actually recommend you to listen to news podcasts or like watching the news because I think formal Korean is low-key another breed of Korean. Like it sounds so different to me. So don't get intimidated by it, but try to get used to it little by little because I don't think the actual exam questions are ever as hard as the actual news, but it's good to be familiar with it. Another way I like to practice was playing the listening recordings of the previous year and just writing down in Korean only what I understood from that dialogue. This helps you practice paraphrasing, which is crucial for exams like this because whatever you listen, whatever text you have, the 4 options that you have will always be paraphrased. They wouldn't want to give you the answer so easily. So it is also very important for you to understand to choose the correct one, obviously. But I'm going to be honest, listening was probably the part that I focused on the least because I feel like by learning vocabulary, by listening, watching a lot of formal Korean, you can increase your overall comprehension. And in this section, I think that's the thing that will help you to most in order to choose the correct answer. Now, this is the part that I don't really with the part that I will talk about the most because it's basically the part that I had to study the most for. For this part, it is so sad, but you just have to memorize like your life depends on it. Because God knows I never learned or had to use this type of Korean even after living in Korea for 5 years. So step 0, non-negotiable, absolutely start by learning the 원고지 rules because all of your answers in this part have to be written in these special type of squares. I don't know what you would call it in English, and it has its own writing rules, and most of them are actually not really intuitive. And actually, the first time I took TOPIK, I thought to myself, my Korean is good, my spelling is good, I should have no problem. But I had completely forgotten about how even the smallest thing matters in this section, like even where you put the damn period. So I found myself in a really funny position during the exam. So according to 원고지 rules, the period requires its own square, one full square. I knew this. I had learned this from the internet. So I was writing my essay for the last question, right? The longest question. I finished writing one of my sentences, but the last word of that sentence ended right at the last square of a row, and I still needed to put the period. So do I just start a new line and put the point there? That's kind of weird, I thought. Literally nothing else seemed right. Turns out only in that case you can put the period in the same square as the last syllable or just right outside of the box. See, they don't teach you shit like that. It's not in the textbook. So I was so dumbfounded during the exam, but after I had to take TOPIK for a second time, I specifically searched for things like this, some exceptions, some important rules, and all of it was for free, so you don't have to worry about it. Just search up 원고지 rules on YouTube. There are a lot of amazing tutors. And the rest of my writing practice was basically downloading this textbook and doing all of the exercises. While doing the exercises, you will realize that some questions have a very specific structure. That structure will repeat itself throughout the exam, especially the questions that require to talk about a pie chart, a graph, whatever. And in the first exam, my mistake was to actually actually try and learn it. And no, what you have to do is just to memorize some of these structures so you can just copy and paste during the exam from your memory. Here's a screenshot from my notes. You must absolutely know these words for this part to be able to talk about these graphs. This is the vocabulary that is required from you basically. So what I did was just using them again and again until I was sure I absolutely had it. Similar to other sections, writing also has very short questions in the beginning, which should be no problem if you're already at an intermediate level with Korean. So I just mostly focus on the latter questions, which are worth more points. Careful, even on the earlier questions, one challenge I had was some tricky words to spell or some exceptional words. You know, sometimes you just have to know things like 되다 or 되다, like they sound exactly the same, so when speaking no one really cares. But you should know how it's written in different cases, and the examiners are most likely to test you on these things, so I would recommend you to focus more on the exceptions, the words that are harder to spell. And finally, about the last big question, remember that it is not what you write about, it's actually how you write it. They're really not going to fact check anything as long as what you're saying is grammatically and very basic, logically non-problematic. So as long as it's structurally correct, write what you can, and do not try to go the extra mile if you're not 100% sure about it, because even if it's a small mistake, they're gonna take your points out, and it's really not worth losing points trying to express something a little bit more complex. It's a much better strategy to put down a bunch of simple but 100% correct sentences. And again, in this part, one of the most helpful things that I did was just to memorize some connectors that one needs when writing a text, obviously in any language, and the rest is just vocabulary that you know that you should learn while preparing for this exam. Also, unfortunately, you have to keep in mind that this is a handwritten exam. So it's not like TOEFL, you have to physically actually correct yourself every time you want to change something. That makes you lose time too, so just be aware of it. Think twice about marking anything. We don't want to lose time, and this is how I survived it, basically. Hope this helps. If it doesn't, leave a question down below, and you know the drill. If you don't have a question, what do you do? Exactly. Thank you. I'll see you on the next one.